Hey Palantir stock investors, it's been a little while since we talked about Palantir, but today we're going to talk about the long-awaited earnings report date and what that means for the lockup agreements, and of course I'll give it to you with my typical no-hype perspective. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's always great to be able to talk with you. And for anyone new here, my name is Kevin, and we talk a lot about IPOs here. In fact, we've been talking about Palantir Stock a month before they actually went public with their direct listing. Today we'll talk about one of the last big factors of a company going public, and that's the lockup expiration period ending, which most companies with direct listings don't have, but then again, Palantir isn't like most companies. Today we'll talk about 5 things on this video. 1, when will Palantir report its earnings? 2, how can you get on listening to the conference call? 3, what's recently happened to drive the stock? 4, information on when the Palantir lockup period expires. And 5, my own thoughts on what could happen. So first of all, not to make you wait, we'll talk about the date. The earnings for the quarter 4 and fiscal year 2020 ending December 31st, 2020 will be held on February 16th, which is a Tuesday, and the earnings will be reported on the conference call before the market opens at 8 a.m. Eastern. Investors can listen in on the call by going to the Palantir website and registering to participate, but if you can't make it, you can also watch a replay that will be available through the 23rd. Now this date is more important than a typical earnings report for most companies because this date gives us guidance when the lockup periods will expire for Palantir stock. But before we go on, I would like to take a quick second to ask you to please push that like button. It really helps the channel by letting YouTube know that you guys are engaged in the video, and it will then more likely push it to more people. The more people that get to see the video, the bigger our community can grow, and that will allow me to spend more time making videos like this one. So really appreciate your help with that. As we get ready to talk more about Palantir's lockup period expiring, let's take a quick look at what the Palantir stock price action has been since December when I last talked about them. And for that, we'll take a look at the chart. So as you can see on your screen, I have the chart of how Palantir stock has traded since it debuted. As you can see, until recently, since we talked about them in December, the stock had really been trading pretty much in a certain range, and then again just recently have popped up. Just to give you some of the updates from January, what happened, it started off the month with a downgrade by Citi with the sell target to $15. A Jefferies analyst increased from $18 to $30, which is really close to where the stock was trading as of the time I recorded this before market opened on Wednesday. Now, Palantir stock did have a catalyst in the middle of January when news of Cathie Wood's ARK Next Generation Internet ETF bought about 500,000 shares. Early to mid part of the month, Japanese contract news came out, but really didn't seem to move the stock price much. On the 19th, there was an announcement of a partnership with PG&E, which was aimed at improving electric grid reliability and safety. No terms of the contracts were announced, unlike what they did with the Japanese companies, but they did note that the contract was multi-year, multi-million dollars, and it was really the first time that the Foundry software was being used in a major U.S. utilities operations. And then the stock really started to move on January 21st, and I really couldn't verify anything significant happening other than that the company had a press release about Demo Day, which we had known since December that was going to happen. But a lot of people ran with the statement in that press release, and there's a lot of belief that that drove the stock up. And in that release, it stated, in quarter 4 2020, Apollo managed 150,000 plus upgrades per week across environments, up from 40,000 plus upgrades per week in quarter 2 of 2020. Now, a lot of people took that as like their business expanded by 4 times. I didn't look at it that way because they don't have that many customers. And so, in my thought, again, just in my opinion, was that this was just another example of how the Apollo platform is really taking off. So again, which is really helping the company with margins in the long run. So then Demo Day happened on the 26th after the market closed. And then the stock was up on the 27th, which was again after Demo Day. And the question was, is this related to the presentation, or was it starting to information to come out that Palantir was going to be announcing a new contract, which they did on the 28th, which was with Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto, according to the press release, was one of the world's leading mining and metals corporations. There was no terms on that deal announced. But again, the stock really took a jump from there. Obviously, the stock has come back down over the past week, and between the time I put this video together and when you actually watch it, who knows where Palantir stock will be trading. Could definitely be a roller coaster. So that gets us up to speed on what Palantir Stock has been doing. Now let's talk a little bit more about the lockup period expiring. Now why the earning dates was so important to know is because based on what was put in their S1 filing, that told us when the lockup period would expire. So going back to the latest amended S1 form, it tells us that Palantir's lockup period will expire the start of the third trading day following the date of public disclosure. If you do the math and look at the calendar, I'm getting Friday the February 19th. What's also important about the screenshot is looking at how many shares were able to be traded on day one, and then how many shares were subject to the lockup agreement. So what you can see here is that there was 383 million shares that were able to be traded on day one. Not talking about restricted stock units here because again that's a vesting and we don't know exactly what time those can be able to be traded. But then it talks about that there's a remaining 1,863 plus million shares available that will be able to be traded at the end of the lockup period. Now, doing the math with a little division, it looks like about 80% of the outstanding shares will hit the market, which will really increase the supply of the Palantir stock. And when you consider that there's many people that have had shares for a while, and some that had them as early as last year that were able to get them around $4 a share, at the current prices, there could be a motivation for them to try to capture some profits. Now, obviously what happens with the earnings report will go a long way in deciding if these early investors, insiders, anybody that was part of the lockup agreements decide to sell or not. Now, it's been my contention that this earnings report will do really well. And the reason I believe that is for a couple of things. First of all, this company is run by a lot of smart people. And as they've been planning to go public, they made decisions that prepared for that. So if they know that their big reporting period is 2020, any expenses that they could have made before 2020 reporting period happened, or anything that could wait until after this reporting period, they're going to do. It just makes sense because they want this first earnings report to look really good, particularly since they know that their early investors are going to be at the whim of a lockup period expiring, and that obviously has history of pushing prices down. Now, another thing that has happened is the pandemic. One of the expenses that's been noted in the past is that the company has spent a lot of money on travel for sales, where a lot of their upper management basically go travel for the sales thing. And so with the pandemic, some of that was obviously cut down. And then again, anything else that could be reduced in expenses, I'm sure Palantir did, again, wanting to have as good a report as they could have. Now, I can't predict the future, and I know I always say that, but I have talked about what lockups tend to do. And I actually had that video out, which if you guys haven't seen it, I'll link it for you in the description because I'm not going to go over that. But that video talked about what lockup periods are, what can be expected, what happens with them. And then we also looked at a lot of companies, some big companies that had some recent lockup periods expiring and what that meant for the stock. So if you haven't seen that one, I would definitely check that out. Again, I'll link it in the description for you. So now, having said that, I don't know exactly what can happen, but I will share with you some of my own thoughts. And one of the biggest issues I do have with Palantir is of the valuation. And that's been talked a lot about a lot of the analysts. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe the analysts, and again, I'm not here to say what they're good or bad or what their intentions are, but one of the big things keep coming back to is valuation. So when we talked about all the shares that were out, we talked about 2.2 billion outstanding, and let's just say a price of $30 per share. Knowing that the company is expecting, as they reported in the Q3 earnings, about $1.072 billion, basically you're looking at a price to sales ratio of over 60. Now, I will say Palantir is a little difficult to compare to their peers because their business is on the unique side. But for comparison's sake, if you put them in the software and programming industry, the price to sales ratio for the third quarter of 2020 is 9.36. And then if you put them in just the general technology sector, price to sales ratio for the third quarter of 2020 is 9.35. Again, not perfect things, but when you start to look at where other companies tend to be, Palantir is at 60, and so that's obviously pretty high. So what will happen? Again, I don't know with this market, and with Palantir stock being a favorite of retail investors, who knows? Now personally, I'm watching at this point. The near-term downside risks outweigh any positives that I see. Again, 80% of more Palantir stock supply hitting the market, and then because of that high valuation. What I don't think is that there will be a major sell-off, which if that doesn't happen, it could help catapult the stock. But keep in mind that there will be some people taking profits, as the stock is trading at a level that almost makes it crazy not to. Now, if the amount of people taking profits is significant, that could lead to some panic selling. I still think Palantir is a good company to own, but I still keep coming back to valuations. Now, a lot of what will happen with Palantir stock trading is going to depend on what the guidance the company offers. At this point, based on, again, what we've heard, I'm still not sure we're seeing that significant amount of growth in the commercial or the foundry business that we were hoping to see. Now, obviously, if on the earnings call the company does report that they have some new customers, that obviously will help the stock. The perspective I would take here, though, is even if I was bullish on the stock at these prices, I would still be hesitant to buy going into the lockup expiration. I'd want to see what happens. For instance, if the stock price drops, then to me that's an opportunity to buy more shares. And if it goes up, I would consider adding a little bit more to my position. And I wouldn't go all in. I would definitely watch what the stock is doing over the next month to next quarter. And I would definitely keep an eye on if there's any insider selling going on. There could be a potential that some of the insiders with a lot of shares might sell when there's a lot less focus than on the lockup expiration date. Anyways, that's what I got for you. Some information and some of my own thoughts on Palantir stock. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Are you looking to buy more shares? Do you feel that the stock price will stay where it is? Do you think it'll go up? Do you think it'll go down? Always interested to know what you guys think. Anyways, please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it. Please share it with your friends or on any of your social media sites. It really helps get us out and really helps the channel grow that way. And then again, if you're new here, have never watched my videos, or you just watch but not really ever subscribe, definitely hope you consider subscribing. We'd love to have you join the community. And with that, I'll let you guys go for now. I'll be talking to you soon though. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have a great day.